employee retention is top of mind for every HR leader and business leader today. Retaining our employees is just as important, if not more important, than identifying new ones to join our organization. But if you're struggling with retention, there's at least 4 questions that I would have you consider and have you ask yourself that I'm going to ask, and I'll provide you with some direction on. Number 1 is, did you have a retention program in place before you hired your existing team? We'll come back to that. Number 2, how are you measuring if your teams are as successful and as effective as they can be? Number 3, how are you incentivizing or encouraging your employees to be the best version of themselves and perform the way they should? And number 4, how are you addressing the specific challenges creating turnover in your organization? The first 3 are universal across every organization. The 4th is specific to yours. So number 1, as we look at, do you have a retention program before you hired your existing team? When we think about onboarding, how do you view onboarding within your organization? Is it a one-size-fits-all, or is it custom tailored to the work style preferences of every oncoming employee? We know that there's a direct correlation to the onboarding experience and pre-90-day turnover. I'll give you an example of this. If you've got somebody who's extremely social, but their first 3 days of onboarding are all about systems and forms and techniques and processes, what's their experience going to be like? What's that going to do for their pre-90-day turnover? Understanding their work styles by using some type of behavioral assessment is just as important in onboarding as it is in selection. But the second thing we've got to understand is, how are we looking at the advancement of our new team members? Do we understand from the recruiting process, the selection process, what drives each and every one of them? Is our organization capable of providing for those specific needs that we've identified? But did we ask the question to identify the drivers of those people before they started with our organization? Having a game plan before we hire them is just as important as having a game plan after we hire them. But question number 2, how are you measuring if your teams are as effective as they can be? And one of the things that we often do is use anonymous surveys. But let's question this a bit. If all we're using is the data from anonymous surveys and the majority of the people leaving are in fact low performers, is the information gathered from that anonymous employee survey actionable? I would suggest, and I would want you to consider, is not using anonymous surveys, or if using those, having some type of mechanism to make it more personal. Surveys are addressing the symptom. Understanding what each of your individual team members need is solving for the problem. The second piece in being able to understand and measure your existing team are using things like workforce dynamics. Understanding, is your team actually aligned to what you need them to do? For example, if your organization is focused this year on nothing but results, but your team makeup, their behavioral drives, their work styles are focused more on innovation and agility, those two don't connect. How can we better take where we're going as a business and what we're recruiting as a team to align them so it creates success? And the success drives down turnover. Question number 3, how are we engaging or incentivizing our team to perform at their best for themselves and for our organization? Obviously, compensation and benefits is a big part of that. We need to be competitive. But eventually that feeling of euphoria when we get our raises goes away, and it's now just the accepted base, the accepted compensation, and the accepted benefits. We need to go beyond the basics to truly engage our team. Your leaders Do they understand what drives each and every one of their team members? Do they know what their specific goals are? Have they defined those goals in the team members' own way? Do they know exactly what career advancement means? Incentivizing and encouraging our teams is more than just throwing money at the problem. It's understanding who they want to become and using a model like the Grow model to help them actually become that person. The cost of entry is comp, is benefits, is perks. The other piece that we often do is events, an opportunity to bring team members together to build our culture. But I would encourage you to ask this question: what's the purpose of the event? Is it literally just to get people together? Or is it to break down silos and the focus is to build stronger teams? How do you take that event and create an environment, a game, some type of activity that is based on forming teams? Are you taking advantage of those opportunities to bring your team together and to have a purpose behind them to retain your teams? And of course, question number 4, this is specific to your organization. Why are your top performers leaving? Those are the people, the top 20 or 30% that we want to make sure we're retaining. Is it a matter of skill set? They're leaving because their skills do not align with the job. Well, we've got to look at what our recruitment process is. Do we understand what the hiring leader really needs? Do we understand the skills of the candidate? Our interviewing process, looking at how we select candidates, is absolutely critical. Because here's what we know. 13% of the time, a candidate leaves, fails, or gets fired because of skill. 87% of the time, it's for something else. Is it about the top team is leaving because the leaders aren't doing anything about the underperforming teams? What is it in your particular organization that is driving your top players beyond the first 3 universal items to leave your organization? Using things like better interviewing processes, results-based interviewing, using some type of data analytics to understand the work styles of your team helps you have a pre-hire plan for retention, an existing plan for your team, as well as building teams that perform and really don't want to leave each other. I hope this was helpful. We'll have more tips and tools coming your way to help you as the HR leader affect retention in your organization. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.